we got news that Troy Tulowitzki has been released by the Blue Jays. First to you, Shi. What do you think of this development?
Look, this is something that has been floating around as a possibility. The fact that it's come to fruition now is really interesting because just last week, Ross Atkins, very candidly, perhaps even surprisingly so, essentially said that they don't think Troy Tulowitzki could ever be an all-star caliber contributor, above average to all-star contributor ever again in his career. That was sort of almost, in a sense, saying goodbye on the possibility of Troy Tulowitzki being a regular for this club at that point. Troy Tulowitzki continues to try and work his way back, trying to recover from the foot surgery on both his heels last offseason, trying to get back to be a big league player. And I think the Blue Jays, where they are, have decided that they just need to part ways with him. It's a very expensive hit. This is a decision that's going to cost him $38 million. That money was committed. It's what they owed him for his 2019-2020 salaries, plus a $4 million buyout on a 2021 club option. So I think the Blue Jays got to the point where they couldn't envision a future or a part or a role for Troy Tulowitzki on this team and had to make this very expensive and difficult decision.
We've talked about this the last few days, that going into spring training, it was going to be an issue, knowing he did not have a position to play, and now they've basically paid out $38 million to get rid of that issue.
Yeah, look, I mean, I was told coming in here that there was a chance that the Jays would just simply sever ties with him. And, I'm not enough of a business major to know what buyout is involved and all that, but it was pretty clear that the Blue Jays, they don't have any use for Troy Tulowitzki. He is a true sunk cost, and maybe more sunk than ever right now.
When you look back on the acquisition that helped propel them to their first playoff appearance in over 2 decades, is it the kind of move that, in retrospect, was a good one at the time?
Yeah, I still think that you can very easily defend the move, the trade at the time, and the $38 million hit the Blue Jays have had to swallow now was essentially money they were going to have to pay to release Jose Reyes, because that's where the Blue Jays were essentially at when they went to acquire Troy Tulowitzki. They had to pin Jose Reyes in that deal to make the money work, and the Blue Jays were prepared to move off of Jose Reyes. They had made the decision at that point in time that they could not win the American League East with his declining defense at shortstop. Now, you can debate whether or not they needed to include the prospect capital that they gave up in that deal. Jeff Hoffman, Jesus Tinoco, and Miguel Castro going with Jose Reyes to the Rockies. But none of those guys has really, to this point, come back to bite the Blue Jays in a significant fashion. And Troy Tulowitzki helped them get to the playoffs twice. So I think essentially what had happened then was the money that they were going to have to pay out to Jose Reyes was deferred, and the check came due today.
I mean, look, I'm in the minority here. I don't think Troy Tulowitzki had much of an impact at all in the Blue Jays getting to the postseason. I think you need to remember the only reason the Jays went after him is they tried to get Ben Zobrist. I still think, Shi's right. The players that the Jays gave up hasn't come back to bite them. But $38 million, $38 million is still a big chunk of money for this team.
Somewhere Lourdes Gurriel is at least knowing that he has a starter's position when opening day arrives in Toronto. What a development, and we'll continue to follow it here from the winter meetings in Las Vegas as Troy Tulowitzki has been released by the Blue Jays.